and auto body shops, often with little public notice or environmental review. The reporting raises questions about whether Texas's regulatory system is keeping pace with one of the state's fastest growing industries. Joining us now, Brad Rossino. He is editor-in-chief of Floodlight. Brad, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Thanks so much for having me.
So the headline here, this permit, common for dry cleaners, is now being used to build AI power plants. Say more about that.
Sure, happy to. But just right off the bat, I just want to say, I was the editor on this story, but Evan Simon was actually the reporter who worked on this over the past couple of months, and he's made data centers his specialty this year. But you're stuck with me because he's got the day off. But, back to your question, these permits are what Texas calls permits by rule or standard permits, and the key thing is they're minor permits or low level air permits. They're designed for kind of like small common pollution sources, like you said, like gas stations or dry cleaners, or even like a hospital that needs a backup generator or two. But because they're meant for these kind of small sources of air pollution, they skip the big requirements like environmental impact studies and public notice and public comment periods.
Just to be clear, because we're talking about power solutions for things like dry cleaners, as we were saying, these are intended for relatively small pollution sources if and when they're actually used. How are developers able to use those permits for facilities like that to eventually power entire AI data centers? Could you explain that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a lot of what the story is about. There's a couple of ways. So first, there's a kind of scale creep happening here. The permit was made for one or two backup generators, say, but our reporting found that these data centers are using them for sometimes dozens of these generators. The Stargate project in Abilene, for example, got minor permits for 10 turbines and 62 backup diesel generators, and then they eventually applied for a major permit. But by that time, these projects are well underway, and they're really hard for the public to stop or even for regulators to say no to, apparently. A second way is that the developers can kind of finagle their estimated emissions numbers to stay just under the line that these permits require. I think it was more than half of the data centers that we looked at reported estimates that were like just barely below these thresholds that would trigger a different kind of permit and public input. Like we found this one facility in San Antonio, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's outside of San Antonio, that had estimated 99.8 tons a year of a certain pollutant. And it just so happens that the threshold that would require public involvement was 100 tons per year. We found this over and over again.
So sort of a small first, big later strategy, I think, is a description that was used in the story. Is it technically a legal use of the permitting system, or is this a violation of the spirit of the law, if not the letter of it?
Yeah, that's kind of the central tension in the story, and I just want to be careful because I'm not a lawyer. I'll just kind of stick to what experts told us, which is that there is a pattern here. Like I said, Stargate got these minor permits in year one, and then they came back the next year with a major permit for a bunch more turbines and generators. And a former TCEQ staffer who we spoke with, that's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, he told us that he sincerely doubts the company made some last minute decision to suddenly expand. And then that was kind of echoed by a former EPA air enforcement chief that Evans spoke with, who told us that all of this should have been rolled into one permit. And he actually pointed Evan to the EPA's own handbook, which has a term for what's going on here. They call them sham permits that can violate EPA rules. So, the experts we spoke with see it as at a minimum against the spirit of the law. But I should say, for its part, the TCEQ agency itself told us that it only issues air permits that comply with state and federal rules.
Well, I know Texas leaders have been talking a lot about making AI infrastructure a big economic priority, but as you may have heard more recently, Governor Greg Abbott has been calling for a crackdown as, public pushback has been building here. One of the things he's talked about, a moratorium on new data centers in rural communities, as he put it, and also a new closer look from regulators overall. So it sounds like at least his administration's wanting to put the brakes or slow things down a bit. How does what you're describing square with what Governor Abbott's trying to do here?
Yeah, so as we reported in the story, Abbott referred to the AI industry in Texas as the state's gold rush, but his kind of recent change in attitude toward it, it seems to have come after a lot of widespread public opposition. I don't totally know kind of how or if his mentality shift is going to have any kind of measurable impact or change the way things are done. But I can say, what another former TCEQ staffer told Evan was that her concerns were about just capacity of state regulators to even adequately oversee this industry. She claims they're extremely stretched thin, that they're backed up for years in enforcement cases and such. And she highly, highly doubted that even today, like they can take care of what's in front of them, let alone, any changes in the future.
Well, you should mention that this investigation centers on Texas clearly, but I can't imagine it's a uniquely Texas issue, or is it?
It's a really good question. To me, honestly, like as a step back as an editor, like this is the data center debate is one of the most interesting things I've come across as a longtime journalist, in that it's uniting both red and blue, right and left, in terms of their opposition toward him for different reasons. But there's always these environmental ones that surface, whether it is air pollution, water quality, health risks, all of these things that tie into what goes along with these facilities. And we started exploring that. And just to provide some context, I believe Evan went through something like 20,000 permits just in Texas to get this story. So when we tried to look at the national angle, we thought, let's start small and look at Texas first before we try and do a national thing.
Sure.
But the reason that we really wanted to focus on Texas is because it is a leading indicator here. It already has around 300 data centers operating. There's like 200 more in development. It's supposed to pass Virginia as the biggest market in the U.S. in a few years. So it's a natural place to kind of see this pattern first, kind of emerging, but we don't know for sure around the rest of the country. However, I will say that's part two of the story, so stay tuned.
The reporter on this story is Evan Simon. We've been speaking with Brad Racino, who's editor-in-chief of Floodlight. We're going to have a link to more and a link to this reporting so you can check it out firsthand over at texasstandard.org. Brad, thanks so much for taking time to talk about it with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're out of time for today's program, but you can keep up with the news 24/7 at texasstandard.org. Our producers and reporters include Sarah Ash, Shelley Brisbane, Michael Marks, and Sean Saldana. Raul Alonso is our digital producer. Leah Scarpelli is our director, and Renee Chavez is our technical director. Our summer interns are Portia Goins and Charlie Sharp. From all of us at the Texas Standard, thanks for listening. I'm Angela Kocherga, wishing you the very best from El Paso.
Philanthropic support for Texas Standard comes from Casey and Scott O'Hare, the Winkler Family Foundation, Lynn Dobson and Greg Woldridge, Adrian Killam, and the George Huntington family.
For centuries, dementia has been a poorly understood class of diseases with almost no treatments. That's changing. We can now test for Alzheimer's disease and treat mild cases. The near future could bring even better treatments and tools to help people earlier. The progress being made in dementia research. Next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A. It's coming up later today at 2 o'clock.
Trusted local resources don't happen by accident. It happens because listeners like you step up. Help Houston Public Media not only meet but exceed our Resiliency Fund goal. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
For today, chance of showers, 70% chance of rain this afternoon. And then tonight, a low near 76. Slight chance of showers at 74. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Welcome to Hello Houston. Coming up this hour, Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis said he would ask Commissioner's Court to fund the district attorney's independent investigation into the fatal shooting of a man by ICE officers last week. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Roseann Rogers. Who keeps Texas judges accountable when they cross the line? Brandon Rottinghaus explores this issue in his all-new Texperts segment.
Plus, what happens when a pair of Venetian gondoliers discover one of them may be king? The Gilbert Sullivan Society of Houston has the answers in this year's production of The Gondoliers, and they're here to share.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. is reinstating a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz as its war with Iran escalates. President Trump says there won't be a 20% toll on ships going through the critical passageway, but instead he's trying to strike investment deals with other countries in the region. Meanwhile, the European Union's Aviation Safety Agency issued new guidelines saying airlines should not fly through much of the airspace in the Gulf or over the Gulf of Oman. This coming after 4 consecutive days of U.S. and Iranian strikes. In Israel, NPR's Emily Fang reports leaders are signaling a willingness to join the U.S. against Iran if needed.
So far, no Iranian missiles or drones have targeted Israel this month, but the country's prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, spoke at a conference in Moana in the Negev desert, warning Iranian leaders that, quote, don't count on things staying quiet if you attack us. In Iran, more than half of its parliamentary members signed a statement today declaring a ceasefire with the U.S. over and demanding revenge. Emily Fang, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The Department of Homeland Security is under heavy scrutiny over a series of deadly immigration enforcement encounters. Federal authorities are investigating the latest incident yesterday in which an ICE agent shot and killed a 26-year-old Colombian national in Biddeford, Maine. Senator Angus King's office said the victim may not have been the person federal agents were looking for. King spoke with NPR's Morning Edition about administration claims that the officer felt public safety was being threatened.
This is a very vague allegation that was in the statement from DHS last night, and that's why we need a true, independent, transparent investigation, not strictly by the federal authorities. The problem is the federal authorities have very little credibility now. After what happened in Minneapolis, the public is not going to accept an investigation conducted by the FBI or by DHS. There's got to be the involvement of our local officials, our state police, our Attorney General's office.
Senator King speaking with NPR. It is Bastille Day in France, where residents and tourists are battling soaring temperatures, putting limits on some celebrations. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports this year's procession is meant to showcase unity with Ukraine and European allies.
Macron stood alone on the Place de la Concorde as the Republican Guard played the Marseillaise. Troops marched down the Champs-Élysées. Ukrainian soldiers were among them while President Volodymyr Zelensky stood nearby. So did 25 other European leaders who met yesterday in Paris to pledge their solidarity with Ukraine as the war with Russia goes into its 5th year. Thousands of people lined the parade route despite the heat. The annual Bastille Day military parade marks the 1789 storming of the Bastille Fortress during the French Revolution. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose. Police are looking for a man who they say sexually assaulted a woman who was exercising along White Oak Bayou. Authorities also say the suspect attempted to drown her, but she was able to fight and escape. This happening around 6:30 last night near Bent Branch Drive at the White Oak Bayou train. They're still looking for the suspect, who is described as a black man in his mid-20s who may have injuries to his eyes from the struggle, as well as missing 2 front teeth. Well, Texas oil companies increased production slightly as oil prices rose during the second quarter of this year. That's according to the latest survey from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about how these companies are responding to uncertainty because of the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran.
Oil companies say they plan to increase production next year if oil prices rise to $100 per barrel or higher. Kunal Patel is a senior business economist with the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. He says it can also take several months for a new oil well to begin producing.
So in many ways, it takes about 8 months for that production to show up. And so it is consistent that you should see more production growth next year than this year.
The U.S. and Israel negotiated a ceasefire last month, but President Trump recently announced that it had ended amid rising tensions. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
And the West Texas Intermediate crude oil is currently trading at around $79 per barrel. Well, Houston ISD says it will continue to move forward with its controversial special education restructuring plan, centralizing services, despite the Texas Education Agency finding the district violated a federal civil rights law and wanting changes by October. Many parents filed complaints after their children were required to transfer campuses to continue certain special education programs. And some stories to watch out for in Houston public media today. A protest is planned this afternoon at Houston City Hall over ICE enforcement concerns. Plus, the Hispanic Caucus met this morning in Washington, D.C. to discuss the same issue. We'll have reaction from our elected leaders coming up later this afternoon on All Things Considered. I'm Shelby Rose, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. At progressivecommercial.com.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
And hello there, Houston. Ernie Manous with you on this rainy Tuesday morning, midday, however you want to see it. Sitting in with me today, we are very honored and very excited and very happy to have with us a broadcasting legend. You've known her for many years in this town as the Buzz Lady. It is Roseann Rogers is back with us. Hello there.
Hi, Ernie. Wow, a broadcast legend. I'm going to be with you every morning. So I'm going to start my day with you because I just want to hear that. You're very complimentary. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you were legendary from the first moment I got to town, and you hadn't started that much before me. And so we pretty much we would show up at the same events, a lot of the same interviews, a lot of the same characters we dealt with over the years. But for a lot of folks, well, then you went away. Where did you go?
I didn't go too far. I just went up the road. I actually went from the Lone Star State to the Tri-Star State of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. I'm in Tennessee, yes. And sometimes you have to do things for family. And so my husband got an amazing job. And so we had to make that choice. And it was an all-in family job. And so we said, let's do it. And most people don't know this, but I started my career in Nashville, Tennessee.
Did you?
I did, with Coyote McLeod. On the radio. I was his gopher or whatever I had needed to do. I did it for him and the entire team and started there. And it was interesting because that was like right on Music Row.
Right.
And then I did store cable there. And then I graduated from Western Kentucky University and had 3 jobs coming out of college: Bowling Green, Kentucky, Waco, Texas, or Louisville, Kentucky. And I decided instead of a 242 market, I was going to Louisville. And so I did, and I was there for 5 years before coming to H-Town. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was the best job ever.
I will say, for a lot of folks who do not know this, here's a little trivia in your career that people don't know. A lot of people still remember the show I did, Manner of Speaking, which was the Downton Abbey after show. And a lot of people loved the show because of the way it looked and the set and the furniture. And what people don't know is Roseann Rogers is the reason we had that big chair I sat in and the chairs for the couches for our guests. You arranged that for us.
It is so funny. You know how you evolve your careers. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Finger Furniture was our largest advertiser when I was at KPRC and then KTPU, the independent station. And Rodney Finger was running this furniture store. His dad, Bobby, had passed away. And you had called me about it because I was actually doing all the advertising and marketing for Finger Furniture at the time. And I thought to myself, what are you talking of period pieces? Do we have this in our, somewhere in this warehouse of this big furniture store? But I was remembering Rodney had gotten into to basically getting all different kind of furniture from all over. And so I literally walked down the back stairs and I said, oh my goodness, I just see Ernie's chair right there.
Yeah.
And there's Downton Abbey set, for matter of speaking.
It's so funny. Now, here's the one more ripple in all this. Do you know where all that furniture is today?
Let me guess. I don't think you got rid of it. Do you still have it by any chance?
It's my living room furniture.
Oh, my goodness.
I watch TV every night sitting in the chair I sat in when we did Manner of Speaking. My friends sit on the couches as though they're guests in my own house. It's very funny.
How many Emmys later? I mean, you would have guessed that. And I was on your first show, and I was also on the last show
one,
as
yeah.
well.
You bookended it for
I
us.
bookended it. It was amazing, and I still think about those days.
Well, thank you for joining us today and being
Thanks for
on
having
this
me.
show with us.
Thank
and we'll
you.
talk more. And I also hear you're going to stay with me tomorrow, too.
I am.
Unless
I just can't
we
get enough
scare
of
you
you.
away today.
I don't think you can do that.
We have a very busy show today, and Brandon Rottinghaus is going to be with us in a little bit with his newest edition of Texperts. And if you're a Gilbert and Sullivan fan, you're not going to want to go anywhere. There's some great scientific research that's happening in our own community. We'll be talking about that. And then we also are going to have a look at what's new at Emancipation Park. All of that coming up on the show today. But where do we always start? We start with the headlines. So, Roseann, take us away.
All right, Ernie, thanks. Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis said Monday that he's asked Commissioner's Court to fund the district's attorney's independent investigation into the fatal shooting of a Houston man by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, officer last week. Ellis did not give us details regarding how much funding he would ask for the county government to provide, but he said his office is exploring the options. It would be a guess at this point, Ellis said at the news conference this past Monday. Whatever it leads us, whatever it costs, within reason, it's important enough for us to do it. I know we have a budget shortfall, but always have to prioritize. It's interesting. This keeps evolving and continues the investigation where it will lead from here.
Yeah. We're curious what you think about this. What are your thoughts on this latest development? Should taxpayers be paying for this investigation? Give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870. As I'm sure most of our listeners know, I'm extremely concerned about this situation, and I want answers. And I know that there's a lot of different agencies looking at what happened. I don't want redundancy too much. I mean, you can have an investigation going, but it has to be an investigation you trust and believe in. We've had Sean Tier, the DA, Harris County DA, on the show, and he's committed to this investigation. I don't know what they have budgeted for things like this. I really honestly don't even know how much things like this actually cost, why it costs so much. I don't know about the sharing of evidence. I don't know about testing of evidence and all of that. If the FBI looks at something, do we then get the records? Do we need to do independent searches? That's all in someone else's court. But I think it's worth our taxpayer dollars to know we're safe in our own communities and that justice is served.
I think that's what Rodney Ellis is saying. That's what he's trying to figure out. They'll get to the bottom of this by doing this. And I think that, like he said, it would be a guess at this point how much it's going to cost. But within reason, we need to prioritize what's really happening because there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
713-440-8870. You can call or text at that number. You can also join us on YouTube in our chat group there and tell us what you think. Perry said, I don't know that they need extra funding to investigate a crime. And I think that goes back to what I was just saying. I don't exactly know how all of this budgets out and how it works. I know everything costs something.
Yeah, of course
we see
it
that
does.
all the time. And
It's
it often
manpower.
is more than we think.
It's
Yeah.
man-women power. It's the power of all the investigation, how many hours people spend. Because let's face it, we're in Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in the country, and we have a lot of things happening.
Mm-hmm. A question for you. Now, we didn't mention this. We said you'd gone to Nashville, but you're currently living in Nashville. And you
That is
just,
correct.
amazingly enough, just flew in this morning to do the show.
I did.
I'm curious, how does this story play outside of our area? We've been watching it. It's been really heavily focused on, but I get the feeling it's not getting that attention nationwide.
And I think that you're right, because if I'm watching the news, it has been covered by all the stations, of course. And as you know, I still do things with the Nashville PBS, and so I'm a super fan and also follower. of public media there as well. But no, I will be perfectly honest with you. We'll see it more on the national news in the mornings or in the evening, but not in the local news at all.
It's something I think that's very important. And I worry also there has been the shooting now in Maine that a lot of people are talking about in Biddeford, Maine. And there is video footage I've already seen on national news last couple days, last day and a half. And I think that helps push a story forward if you've got the footage. But I worry that this story may get lost as more incidents happen. Renee Good kind of got pushed back when the Purdy shooting happened, and it kind of builds on that. And we were talking about this earlier about so much comes at us so fast, it's hard to hold on to all the threads of all the stories. So from that point of view, I appreciate Rodney Ellis saying, let's fund this, let's stay on top of this, let's not let it get away.
Well, I think the bottom line is we don't want it to happen again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, we don't know what happened exactly, but the thing is we do not want something like this to happen again.
Yeah. 713-440-8870. Wayne from Southwest Houston is on the line. Wayne, what are you thinking today?
Well, we're the reverence for life. I mean, Trump and his crew just act like killing ain't nothing. We've got to get some sense back into our government where life means something, not shoot somebody just on a whim. Oh, he ran away from me, I'm going to shoot him. That makes no sense. So that's it.
Wayne, I think you express feelings of a lot of folks in the community. Thank you for calling and sharing with us. I think what that's been reminding me of this entire time is how we are so quick to characterize people as others, and that you have to realize, and I think they've done a wonderful job on this particular incident as showing Lorenzo as a family man. He was only 52 years old. He was the father of 3. And by all accounts, all 3 of his sons have really made something of their lives. They have gone to college. 2 have graduated. One's going to at good schools. And so it says this is a good family man. It has been said that he was not the target of this investigation. It's questionable whether anyone in the car was the target. The shooting in Maine, it came out, that gentleman was not the target. So when we get to the point that we're just eradicating people who are problematic in the quest to do what our goal is, there's a problem there. And it's very disturbing. But now, in defense of all of this, if in fact it turns out a crime was committed that was at the level that the perpetrator needed to be stopped, that's a different story. But I'm not seeing that evidence before us. And that's another reason we need answers. And we need to know so we can understand. And if there's crimes committed here, who committed the crimes? Let's find out with an investigation. 713-440-8870. Colby from Katy is on the line. Good morning, Colby. What's on your mind?
Good morning. And I think that it's okay to use our tax dollars in this situation. I think what we're dealing with here is on a federal level, our tax dollars are being, in my opinion, misused, and there's no accountability. And I'm okay with my local tax dollars going towards bringing that accountability to the federal level in hopes that maybe this could make an impact on future use of those federal funds.
Colby, let me ask you quickly here on this particular topic. There's already, we've heard, an FBI investigation going on into what happened. I'm sure there's an internal investigation from ICE and Homeland Security. I am curious, would you be satisfied with the results of that investigation, or having something local and independent done give you more confidence?
I would absolutely not be satisfied with anything that came from the FBI. I believe that this administration has distorted the FBI and the Department of Justice into being its own tools.
Colby, thank you for sharing with us today. We're interested in what you have to say, your thoughts and feelings on this topic. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. A very concerning issue. And I think Colby brings up a good point, is that you have to have trust in your organizations and your systems of government.
He sounds very concerned, doesn't it? And it's also, I think, with me too. It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
Right? It's disheartening that this is happening, and I think you could hear the concern in his voice and the bottom line is that we want to make sure we know what's happening and what's going on in this investigation. And he's okay with it because he wants the truth. And I think that's what we all want, is the truth. And however we can get that.
We want to know what you all want. So please continue. Share your thoughts, your feelings. You can email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can call or text us 713-440-8870, and we'll continue to follow this story. And we want to hear from all sides of this issue. What do you think? What are your feelings? Is this a good use of taxpayer money? Would you feel more confident in an investigation done locally, or would you feel comfortable with the FBI taking the lead on this? Let us know. It's been a very heavy week of stories, so I want to go to something a little lighter that I'm very excited about. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready
Olive
for
Garden.
it.
You've heard it. It's coming back. The never-ending pasta bowl. What I love about it is they also have announced that you can get the never-ending pasta pass.
Oh, yes.
They talk about it. They say how much it costs. You get it. You can eat, I think it's 13 weeks, unlimited pasta.
Unlimited.
The hook that they're not saying is there's only a limited number of these. And I tried years ago when this was a big thing to get the pass.
Get the pass.
I never got in time.
Ernie, you just got to be diligent. You're not focused enough. You're not, now my son might be the first person in line. He's going to he is an Olive Garden guy, and he is probably going to get it. I wouldn't put it past him.
If you take the pricing of the actual, when you go into the restaurant and get and order the never ending bowl, or the price of the pass, if you eat there within the 13 weeks 7 times or more, you make your money back. Once I do the math there, that seems like an awful lot of never-ending pasta to eat over a 13-week period.
Then you're going to have to go on a huge diet. All those carbs. I love pasta myself, but goodness.
If you go just once every 2 weeks, it makes more sense. Don't go for the pass.
But how brilliant is this for the marketing team at Olive Garden? We're all talking about it. Everyone is talking about this.
Well, I think when you say all you can eat at a reputable restaurant and you put a reasonable price on the pass, that in today's economy, you feel like, okay, that's a bargain. But you really got to look at the fine. I just switched my energy company. And so I was looking at all the fine details to figure out who's got the best deal. So remember, if you're not going to eat at Olive Garden 7 times or more in 13 weeks, don't worry about the pass.
I just think that's a lot to eat at one place for 13 weeks. You'd have to really go multiple times a week to get your money's worth out of this.
Have you gone? Have you ever been lucky enough to get the pass? And did you take full advantage of it? Let us know. I'm very curious about that. 713-440-8870. Something a little closer to home for you.
Yes.
Dolly Parton.
Good old Dolly. She's amazing, isn't she?
What is she up to now?
Was it she not up to? She just opened a truck stop to compete with that other big gas station, place called Buc-ee's, which I love, obviously. I still go to that quite often. We have quite a few in Tennessee. But she opened her own truck stop in Tennessee, so it's pretty awesome.
Say, I think it's funny because I would think, let me look at the landscape. What is there a need for? There's a need for a Dolly Parton-themed truck stop. Wouldn't come to top of mind.
Why not? And there's already, it's competition, but she's if anyone's up for a competition and she'll do it with a smile on her face, that is Dolly Parton.
Well, it's interesting to see the competition on the Great White Way, as they call it. Broadway, Dolly Parton's musical is coming to Broadway this winter. So you may finally, according to the note I have here, find out what happened to Jolene.
There's a story about that. And also, too, she has a brand new hotel. So if you're coming up to Nashville, her Song Teller Hotel is 20,000 square feet, 245 rooms. And, of course, it's all themed. It is Dolly-ish all over. And it's in Nashville. It's opening up. Yeah, they had a preview, so it's there in Nashville, so right there in Music, right there. We're not far from Music Row, from Broadway. So you can go to Jason Aldean's, or you can go to Eric Church's place.
I've got to wrap this up, so I'm going to throw my Dolly Parton cake mix in the oven, because she also does mixes and recipes in the store. And we're going to be back with University of Houston political science professor and party politics co-host Brandon Rottinghaus, who is going to tell us a little about the system of discipline for Texas judges in a new Texperts. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
$650,000 remains. Your gift today helps close a gap and keeps trusted news, local voices, and public media here for you. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
HPM Plus brings you the latest news and information from around the world and across the street. Trusted journalists delivering facts, fairness, and perspective. Keeping you connected by keeping you informed. PBS NewsHour, Frontline, and documentaries that provide a voice to the voiceless. Stream live, engage on demand, and enjoy past seasons through PBS Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs and stay informed.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, where performances include live music, theater, dance, and more. Programming welcomes audiences from across the Houston area. Learn more at milleroutdoortheater.com. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Autry International School, where students from PK3 to 12th grade grow in curiosity and courage, preparing them to make their mark on the world. The future's so bright at Autry. More at autry.org.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, the series Once Upon a Time in Space tells the human stories behind our quest to explore space, drawing on intimate, archived, and powerful first-hand interviews. Tonight at 8 on TV8.
Support comes from Rice University's Moody Center for the Arts, presenting Summer Jam, an afternoon of art activities featuring an indoor farmers market, live DJ, outdoor games, and more. Saturday, July 18th at 5 p.m. moody.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Roseann Rogers.
Who watches the people wearing the black robes? Texas has more elected judges than almost any state in America. And with much power comes occasional scandal, from questionable gifts to courtroom outbursts and even judges claiming divine guidance. University of Houston political science professor and party politics co-host Brandon Rottinghaus explores a little-known system that disciplines Texas judges in the newest episode of Texperts. Let's have a listen.
Welcome to Texperts, Houston Public Media's short primers on Texas government. I'm Brandon Rottinghaus, a political science professor at the University of Houston. Picture this: a packed courtroom in San Antonio, lawyers arguing, defendants waiting nervously, and suddenly, the judge orders a defense attorney handcuffed in open court. Not metaphorically, literally cuffed. That judge was Bexar County Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez. The incident triggered an investigation by the Texas State Commission on Judicial Conduct. By 2026, facing potential discipline, she resigned from the bench and agreed to be permanently disqualified from serving as a judge in Texas ever again. And that raises a fascinating question. Who watches the people wearing the robes? In Texas, state judges have enormous power. They can send people to jail, decide billion-dollar lawsuits, settle custody battles, and even shape elections and public policy. But what happens when judges themselves cross the line? Today on Texperts, we're diving into how Texas disciplines its judges and how ordinary Texans can keep an eye on bad behavior before it spirals out of control. Texas has more judges than almost any state in America, and most of them are elected, which means that judges are politicians with gavels. Now, most judges do their jobs professionally, but Texas has seen its share of judicial scandals. So Texas built multiple systems to discipline judges, because no single branch of government gets to control the courts completely. Think of it as a 3-layer emergency brake system. The biggest referee of judicial behavior is something most Texans have never heard of, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. It's made up of 13 people, judges, lawyers, and ordinary citizens appointed by the governor. Their job? Investigate complaints against judges. And Texans file a lot of complaints. The commission looks into allegations like corruption, abuse of power, conflicts of interest, inappropriate behavior, drunkenness, yes, drunkenness, or other violations of Texas Code of Judicial Conduct. And the punishments can vary dramatically. Sometimes it's a warning, sometimes mandatory training, sometimes a public reprimand, and sometimes a judge will lose their robe forever. Now here's where things get interesting. Sometimes judges are disciplined by other judges. The Texas Supreme Court can suspend or remove lower court judges. Why? Because courts have to protect the credibility of the judiciary itself. If the public stops trusting judges, the whole legal system starts wobbling. And then there's the political route. The Texas legislature can impeach judges. Yes, just like governors or presidents. But it almost never happens. Under Texas law, judges can be impeached for incompetence, habitual drunkenness, yes, neglect of duty, or other serious misconduct. In this case, the Texas House impeaches and the Texas Senate holds a trial. It's dramatic, it's political, and because it's so extreme, it's usually the last resort. Most judicial discipline happens through the Commission on Judicial Conduct instead. Here's the part most people don't realize. You don't have to be a lawyer to hold judges accountable. Regular Texans have more power than you think. Many hearings are public. You can attend court, watch live streams, read court records, and observe how judges treat people. Patterns matter. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct publishes public disciplinary actions online. That means that we can see warnings, reprimands, suspensions, and removals. You can literally track which judges have been disciplined and why. A judge's courtroom reputation shouldn't be a secret. Some of the biggest judicial scandals in Texas were uncovered by local journalists. County courthouse reporters often know which judges are respected, which are chaotic, and which are constantly generating complaints. The Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez story exploded because reporters kept digging. Local journalism matters a lot. Now, this may be the biggest one. Most Texas judges are elected, but judicial races are notoriously low information elections. A lot of voters skip them entirely. That's risky, because once elected, judges wield incredible power over criminal sentencing, family law, elections, business disputes, and other constitutional rights. So researching judicial candidates actually matters, a lot more than people think. So sometimes the most important question in a courtroom isn't who's on trial, it's who's watching the judge. We're going to talk today to somebody who knows a little something about being a judge, and that's Judge Ken Wise, who is a justice on the 14th Circuit Court of Appeals. He's a member of the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and he is also a famous podcaster. Judge Ken Wise, welcome to Texperts.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Hey, you are honestly one of my favorite podcasters. If I'm not listening to true crime podcasts, I'm listening to Wise About Texas. How'd you get interested in Texas politics, Texas history?
Well, Texas history, from the time I was a youth, my great-great-grandfather settled in Houston in 1836, and I grew up running around a lot of his land. He eventually moved to Montgomery and had a large farming operation. So I would run around up there and hear the stories, and, I think everybody wants to be connected to their past and wonder who was here before they were, and that's really what got me hooked. And then, through the years, it matured into a passion and then a useful hobby. Once I took the bench, I discovered how important it is to learn our history.
That's great and really helpful to know, and frankly, a great lead into our conversation today about judicial process and especially about judicial sanctions. So, most people know that Texas judges do a lot of work on the bench, especially in sentencing people and in efforts to adjudicate conflicts between businesses or industries. But most people don't know that Texas also disciplines judges. So how does Texas actually hold judges accountable if they cross the line?
Well, there's two ways. First of all, judges are elected in partisan elections, which is a very unusual system relative to the rest of the country. There's only a couple of states that do that. That goes back to Reconstruction time and is the topic of a history podcast, not this one. But we're not going to change it anytime soon. So that's one way. The other way, though, we have a set of rules for judges called the Code of Judicial Conduct that are special rules designed to ensure that the judicial branch is functioning independently and with the integrity that the citizens of Texas deserve and want. To decide when questions arise in that context, we have the Judicial Conduct Commission, It's actually called the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. So that's a 13-member tribunal of which I'm the current vice chair. And we sit as a commission deciding complaints that are filed. And we have a staff that investigates them and presents them. Those staff are lawyers and investigators. And there's a whole process around that. And then we make a decision.
Yeah. Obviously, judicial misconduct is problematic, but I'm wondering if you can tell us why you think ordinary Texans should care about judicial conduct. Why is it bad for courts to act in the way that they do and for judges to engage in activities that sometimes might be considered problematic?
Well, I'll put it this way. If you're going to interact with your government directly, it's probably going to be the judicial branch. And even if that's just going to jury duty, and hopefully that's all it is. But, we've all gotten a speeding ticket or two in our time, and you become a criminal defendant at that point. We don't think about it that way, but technically you are. And again, hopefully that's as far as it ever goes. But if you have a matter of property or money, that if you're hurt in an accident, or if you've got a real estate dispute or what have you, your recourse is to the judicial branch. And so you want that branch of government functioning well, functioning efficiently, and most importantly, the judges that are sitting over your case, that they have the integrity to judge your case according to the law and the facts and for no other reason.
I like how you mentioned that, this is partisan to some degree since we're electing judges. And I guess I'm wondering, in a world where we have Facebook and X and social media and heavy partisan politics, what's the kind of biggest ethical mistakes you see judges making in this era of partisanship and social media?
Well, that's a more complicated question than you think, because judges have a First Amendment right to, as any other citizen does, to run for election. That's an exercise of your First Amendment right. Again, we don't think about it that way always, but it is. And so you have to balance that with the idea that we don't want judges occupy, typically in the mind of the public, a little bit of an elevated status. We expect judges to be a certain way and to act with integrity, to be deliberative, to know the law, to all of those things. And so when judges speak on matters, they tend to speak with at least an implied authority. And so you have to be careful how you wield that. And a lot of those ethics rules govern that. For example, I can't go endorse a business in a public way. I can't take a political position on a political issue. I can't take a position on an issue that might come before the court. Those are three different ethical rules in that code of judicial conduct. When you inject social media into the mix, that's an easy and often thoughtless avenue down which to travel. And you can pop off on social media, and we've all done it. And so that gets people and judges in trouble a lot. But then you come to election time, and you have to use social media. It's political malpractice not to. And you have to get your message out, and you have to be allowed to campaign. And so that's a real tension that an elected judiciary faces every single day. And so I've been on the bench long enough that I'm sort of used to it, but a lot of new judges run afoul of that. And, they usually don't get in big trouble for that because usually it's unintentional. But that's a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides social media and the kind of impressions about partisanship seeping into decision making, what are the kind of biggest threats you see to confidence in the judiciary today?
I think one of the biggest threats I see in the confidence, there's two real things. The first thing is judges who are not competent. When you elect officials, and I think everyone listening would probably agree with this, you don't always get the best choice. I mean, we've all had elected officials that we think, my gosh, how did that person ever win office? We all do. It doesn't matter what party you're in, and always it's someone you disagree with, right? But so you sometimes you run into that. There's really no way. There are a minimum set of qualifications that you have to meet to be eligible to run for judicial office, but those don't always ensure the best and brightest. But generally, judges, in my experience, are trying very hard. The other part is when we're in hyper-partisan eras, which we're in right now, and we've been in before, people tend to attribute partisan action or partisan motives to all government action no matter what. And I think you see it in the judicial branch because people judge cases, particularly criminal cases, and all of a sudden you got a criminal case and people are taking sides. Well, they should be guilty. Well, they should be not guilty. Well, you don't know any of the facts. And the jury is the only one competent to make that decision because they've got the evidence that's admitted under the rules of evidence, et cetera. And that verdict, in theory, is going to be a quality verdict, no matter what the verdict is. And so, but people tend to become partisans even when you're talking about adjudicating cases. And that's not how the American system works. And the reporting, the media shares a lot of blame in this because you'll see them, they'll name a judge and they'll mention which president appointed the judge. Well, nothing matters less than that if it's a good judge. So that kind of stuff is extremely frustrating to those of us in the judiciary.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a kind of to your point earlier about how the state elects judges, we elect a lot of judges, right? Which is good because it does give control. And that's the point of the constitutional edict for this. But it also puts a lot of burden on voters to be able to make a lot of decisions with pretty low information. So what are the kind of things you would like to tell voters about when it comes to electing judges? What are the things that they should think about? Where should they look? And what are the kind of factors they should consider?
Well, number one, you want judges with experience. Judicial service, you really have to be on the bench a while before you have seen enough to hone your judicial instincts. And so I would say even the most competent lawyer, when they take the bench, I had a lot of trial experience. I had worked at a big law firm. I had a good law school record, all of the things on paper that say you should be a good judge. Well, I still had never been a judge before. And so it takes a little while to get the experience necessary to be the best you can be. So the more experience, generally, the better the judge. So that's the first thing. I would also, there are several organizations around that do a good job of interviewing the judicial candidates, no matter how experienced you are. I had one the other day, as a matter of fact. And no matter how experienced you are, to make sure that their motives are pure, that they're thinking the right way. And these are typically legal organizations, and they will put out endorsement lists. Business organizations will do the same thing. The Bar Association, the state bar, as well as the local bar, has preference polls every year. So all of that will help, but you also have to be careful. No one is necessarily better than the other. So if you see somebody getting endorsed by several organizations, that might be a way to tell. But I would really encourage people to get on the internet and do some research on the candidates because, again, if you're going to interact with the legal system, it's probably going to be a judge. And so you really should, we affect people's daily lives. And so you really should take time to learn the candidates. And I realize it's a burden. It really is. The longest ballot in the United States of America is a gubernatorial year Texas Harris County ballot because we have so many judges. And that's literally true.
Awesome. Hey, Ken, thank you so much for being on Texperts. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Professor. I appreciate being here.
Thanks for listening to Texperts, and thanks to everybody, cast and crew here at Houston Public Media for making it happen.
That was Brandon Rottinghaus, University of Houston political science professor and co-host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics. He spoke with Judge Ken Weiss, who's a justice for Texas 14th Court of Appeals. All episodes of Texpert, you know what, they're available to listen to on our website. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and search for Texperts. Okay, coming up, the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Houston's production of the operetta, The Gondoliers. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Semifinals feel a little like the championship, like UNLV versus Duke, March Madness 1991.
Duke has done it. Duke has upset UNLV.
The Cowboys and 49ers in the NFC Championship in 1982.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.
New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox 2004.
Up the middle. Roberts will come to the plate. The throw by Williams. Bill Miller has tied it.
Boston would go on to break the so-called curse and win the World Series. Today could be one of those clashes. The two were pre-tournament favorites among bookmakers to win the whole thing. Spain or France have been to, or will go to, the final of the World Cup or European Championship in 11 of the last 15 tournaments, including this one. France has been ruthless, outscoring their opponents 16-2 and rolling through the group stage and knockouts. Spain, meanwhile, arrives unbeaten in 36 straight matches, one shy of tying Italy's all-time record. The winner advances to Sunday's final at MetLife Stadium. The loser isn't done, though. They'll play for third place Saturday in Miami. And the drama doesn't stop there. On Wednesday in Atlanta, England and Argentina renew their rivalry with a spot in the final on the line. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support for this soccer update comes from Karbach Brewing, makers of Hopadillo IPA, hosting summer soccer at Karbach, featuring live matches on a 14-foot LED screen along with internationally inspired food and drink offerings.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Roseann Rogers.
For the next 2 weekends, the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Houston, the city's, which I was surprised to learn, longest-running opera company. You would have thought I'd have known that after all these years.
We would have thought, Ernie.
You would have thought. They're going to be presenting their production of The Gondoliers as part of their 75th season, set in colorful Venice. The operetta follows two gondolier brothers who discover that one of them is the heir to a distant throne. Happens to all of us. Only that no one knows which one of the two of them it is. This production marks the first time this lively satirical tale has graced the Houston stage since 2017. And to tell us more about the Gondoliers, we're joined by Joe Carl White, president of the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Houston's Board of Directors, almost got that wrong, and Houston native stage director Alyssa Weathersby. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
If you're a huge Gilbert and Sullivan fan, and who isn't, give us a call. Join the conversation, 713-440-8870. The Gondoliers, I will start off by saying I know Gilbert and Sullivan. I know the show. I don't know that I've ever seen this one. But it's a popular one.
It's actually one we've done almost more than any other show. It's the very first show we performed in 1952. It's the show we performed when we opened the Cullen Theater. We were the first group ever to perform in the Cullen Theater in the Wortham in 1987. So it's appropriate that for our 75th season, the Cullen's 40th season, that we bring it back in our return to the Cullen
Such
Theater.
history. I love the fact that you have that. It's wonderful. And this is a great, because it also takes place in one of everyone's favorite cities in Italy, of course. Mm-hmm. It can't go wrong there.
And we have a stylized version of Venice that Alyssa's mind has created and our artistic team has brought to life. And Alyssa, how would you describe it best?
Yeah, so my North Star for the show was play. So all the GNS shows are very playful, very whimsical. And I just really wanted to lean into that. So you know how a little kid can come up with an entire world, a castle, everything from a cardboard box, right?
Right, of course.
So in theater, we're often creating things out of nothing, right? Like whole worlds are just devised. And so I said, why don't we just lean into this and play with this idea? So when you come in, you'll see the spirit of Venice, but maybe not the exact iconography.
I like it already, though. That's okay.
I would say probably one of the hardest things in your job is the fact that Gilbert and Sullivan, people have an image that comes to mind immediately when you say it. And in today's very difficult economical times, the pricing of all of this is so expensive. But You expect something lavish when you think Gilbert and Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
How, as a director, do you reinvent something that people already have a concept of to engage and surprise?
Yeah, that is the question. So I think with GNS, there's obviously this idea of what it should look like. We have an archive, like a history of what it has looked like in the past, and lots of remounts of that. But you just ask the audience, you let them know, like, hey, this is going to be different, and here's why. Here's why it's important we look at this through a different lens. And oftentimes, the spirit of it, the brightness of it, my concept of this is still very bright and colorful and in the heart of the show itself. Mm-hmm. It's not a hard leap to make. So, once they get past that initial shock, it's a good time, and they leave knowing the spirit of the show.
And it can be new but still be lavish, because we've got a set that is amazing. Our costumers, Mary Weber and Sean Heath, have just done an amazing
fantastic job.
People are going to definitely get their money's worth when they come to see the show.
I always also think big when I think Gilbert and Sullivan.
It's
what
big.
Size cast are you working with?
Oh, gosh.
We've
the
got 41.
That's a lot.
44 now.
Oh, excuse me, 44, yes.
44.
We've added 3.
And it's a 2-story set, so when you want big, it's big.
We had 41, but what are we missing? We need more people. We need just 3 more to really feel
really round it out.
Yeah. Gilbert and Sullivan has a place in people's hearts, but there are some people who may be, believe it or not, unfamiliar in today's day and age of Gilbert and Sullivan. How would you describe it? How would you encourage that audience to say, come take a look?
Yeah, it's musical theater.
Yeah.
It's musical theater with all of the dancing, the acting, the singing, and also the full lush orchestra of opera. So it's kind of the best of all worlds, in my opinion. So if you are unsure, you've not seen it before, if you've ever liked a musical, you'll probably like this.
Yeah. And they're often very funny, very clever, very witty.
That's the thing about GNS. It's the basis on which American musical theater is built. Yeah. Without GNS, you wouldn't have Lerner and Loewe, you wouldn't have Rodgers and Hammerstein, you wouldn't have Lin-Manuel Miranda, who got his start in the 8th grade performing The Pirate King in a production of the Pirates and Penzance.
My first was HMS Pinafore.
I was just going to ask you that, Ernie. What did you do?
But my favorite Gilbert, we were just talking about this before you guys came. My favorite Gilbert and Sullivan show, for none of the reasons that you would automatically assume, is Iolanthe. Oh, my.
And I said to him, what? Of all of them? I'm like, okay, there's got to be a story within a story, right?
Summer after high school. I'm from Binghamton, New York. We have a Gilbert and Sullivan Society. They were doing it, and a couple of my friends were in the show. And so every night we went to their rehearsal because we all went out afterwards. But it got ingrained in me. And Iolanthe became my senior summer. And even though I wasn't in the show, I felt like I was part of the company.
You were in the show spiritually.
Yeah. So
they could have added 3 more. And you could
have decided.
If they only said 3 more, Ernie, that would have been it.
Okay, so what was your gateway drug for both of you to Gilbert and Sullivan?
Well, I'll just say this before we answer that. Iolanthe was actually the first show I did with the Houston GNS Society last summer. I came and I directed and choreographed it. So it's really special that you said that.
Yeah.
It's special for me, too.
He didn't know that, I swear to goodness.
No,
he
I did not.
You really set it up well, though.
He did, didn't he?
My gateway drug, in high school, I sang in an excerpt from Patience, and I thought, this is really cool. But the first full show I did with staging and the whole thing was Pirates of Penzance at Opera in the Ozarks back in...
You don't have to say any days.
A couple years back.
We don't do that. Back in the day. Back in the day when I was performing, that's when I did this, yes.
For me, my father fell in love with the movie Chariots of Fire, and it features a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan music in it based on a true story. And he bought a best of Dolly Parton hits that was our summer road trip music. And so our whole family fell in love with the music. The next year, Beaumont Civic Opera was doing HMS Pinafore. And all 4 of us, my mother, my father, my brother, and I were in the chorus. And they called us the One White Family Singers.
Yes.
And we got a version of it this summer. We have a gentleman, Ennis Watt, who was in our chorus last year. And he had such a good time. He brought his father and 2 of his brothers to sing. So
I got chills and brought back memories when I saw it for the first time myself. And so I was like, wow, that just really dated me. But, I mean, do you have a favorite? I mean, do either one
Hold
of
on.
you?
Before they do that, you haven't told us your gateway into
I don't know if I
Sullivan.
have a favorite. I mean, because I did musical theater in high school, but it was more like West Side Story. You know, it was the West Side Story kind of thing. Because I wanted to give it a try. I was a dancer, not a singer. So I would always be in the background. If we need a dancing part, they call Roseann, you know. And then
you'd be one of our 3.
So,
for
yes,
sure.
I'd be one of the 3. They would add on. They needed a answer. But I don't really have, I would say, a favorite. And it's like if you ask me a Broadway or a movie, I can't ever tell you that. I have never been able to pick a favorite because I like so many.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Because I just don't. Do you have, what's yours?
So it's always a show that I'm working on. Is a show that tends to be my favorite.
Yeah.
Because you get so engrossed, you learn all the little, tidbits and historical things and all of the interesting lore about it.
In Gondoliers, in case everyone's just joining us, is that what the show that's actually the next 2 weekends at the Wortham's Collins Center. So in case you're just joining in, that's the show that you're referring to.
Yes, it is. So that is currently my favorite of their shows. I know last summer when I was deep in Iolanthe, I was like, oh my gosh, how have I never given this the amount of time it deserves and the love it deserves? And every time I embark on a new project, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is that one.
I think that's fair. That goes along with, I say I don't have a favorite of it because it's what you're in the moment, or it could be the time of, where you are in your life or the season. You're like, and when you said Chariots of Fire, okay, I'm going to have to say that's probably one of my favorites.
I want to remind everyone we are speaking with Joe Carl White, who is the president of the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Houston's Board of Why do I keep stumbling every time? Directors, and Houston Native Stage Director Alyssa Weathersby. If you'd like to join the conversation, tell us what your favorite Gilbert and Sullivan is. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I guess my question is, to get people into the theater this year with costs, with the world around us, tell them why this is the wonderful escape that we all need at this time.
This show is, in my opinion, the best one that the Society has ever staged.
Wow, that's
and
big.
I've been performing
75 years.
I first started performing with the group in 1990. Okay. And I am so excited about this one. From Alyssa's vision to the execution by John Moore, who's our director of production, Jody Bobrovsky, who's our stage set designer, where I mentioned Mary and Sean, our costumes, the cast. The cast is so energized and are so excited themselves. I mean, some of it's their first exposure to GNS, and they said, I never knew this GNS was so good. And that's the thing. A lot of people who have a classical education, shall we say, have been taught to poo-poo Gilbert and Sullivan, that it's kind of middle class, it's low, it's not up to
par.
Right.
It's not posh enough.
It's not serious
posh
enough.
Okay, I got you.
But Sullivan was probably the greatest English composer of his day, that he was the great hope for English against the German composing juggernaut. And he was the first Mendelssohn scholar, went to study in Leipzig. And his music is just so wonderfully orchestrated. Yeah. And anyone who actually gives it a proper listen will go, this is really good stuff. But you don't have to be that. There are shows that have tunes you can hum.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, let's talk about this show, The Gondoliers. That's going to be taking place at the Wortham Center all the way through July 26th. Alyssa, tell us, people who are not familiar, obvious Gondoliers.
You got about 30 seconds to do it, too.
Really fast. Give your pitch right now for why people should go to the show and what's it about.
Oh my gosh, this show is one of the best they ever had. The ones that people know off the top of their heads are Pirates, Gondoliers, maybe HMS Pinafore, but this is the one. This is the one that is the end of Gilbert and Sullivan's collaboration, and therefore the pinnacle. They figured it out by then. It's incredible music.
They figured it out by then.
She's so right.
That is the best way to put it. I'm going to leave it on that note.
Right.
And you
Stage
can
director
can
out. Do it. Did she not just pull that off?
She just did it. Joe Carl White is the president of the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Houston Board of Directors. Alyssa Weathersby is a Houston native and stage director for the Gondoliers. Joe, Alyssa, thank you both very much for coming and doing this. The Gondoliers will run from July 18th through the 26th. For more information, visit gilbertandsullivan.org. Coming up, more Hello Houston right after this.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston, this is the moment to give. Just $650,000 remain to reach Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund goal. That's 15% left. Help keep Houston informed. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Still a 90% chance of showers. Heavy rain possible. Today's high 82. Your NPR station, KUHF Houston, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, a group of Democratic state lawmakers from Texas asked the Texas Rangers to open an independent investigation into the July 7th shooting of an immigrant in Houston by U.S. ICE agents. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Roseann Rogers. What is the key to stopping one of the deadliest brain cancers? Is building miniature version of the human brain in a lab. Rice University's Christina Tringides explores that very concept.
Plus, Houston's most iconic park unveiled a major new addition. What does it mean for the future of culture, community, and celebration in the 3rd Ward?
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. E. Jean Carroll, the columnist who accused President Trump of sexually assaulting and defaming her, has received a $5.6 million payment from her civil case against Trump. She waited 3 years after a jury found Trump was liable for damages. The money was held in escrow while the president appealed the award. President Trump's hosting Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi today. During a joint news conference, Trump defended a decision to reinstate the U.S. blockade on the Strait of Hormuz as its war with Iran escalates. He also says there won't be a 20% toll on ships going through the critical passageway, but wants to strike investment deals with other countries in the region.
And they said, we'd love to do it a different way. We'd love to invest in the United States with billions and billions of dollars and continue our record setting, because there's never been a time like this for the United States, with the factories, with the plants, with everything else. And we would like to invest tremendously in the United States as opposed to charging a fee. And I like that, actually, because I don't think anybody should be able to charge a fee for the strait or for any other strait.
The U.S. and Iran have been trading fire for several days. The president's deployment of the National Guard to Washington, D.C. has been extended until Inauguration Day 2029, the Pentagon confirmed to NPR. Thousands of armed and uniformed troops have been patrolling the city for nearly a year. The latest from NPR's Kat Lonsdorf.
President Trump first deployed the National Guard to D.C. last August after declaring a crime emergency in the city despite violent crime being at a 30-year low. That emergency declaration lifted a month later, but the Guard and the federal law enforcement task force that they're a part of remained. Since then, the number of troops has steadily increased to now nearly 5,000 from more than 20 different states and a cost of around $3 million per day. 2 different studies have found that the presence of the National Guard has had no effect on violent crime in the city. The White House did not immediately respond to NPR's request for comment on why the extension of the deployment for another 2.5 years was deemed necessary. Kat Lonsdorf, NPR News, Washington.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will pause non-urgent vehicle stops after 2 deadly shootings in less than a week. That, according to Maine Senator Angus King, who spoke with NPR, or whose office spoke with NPR. A spokesman for King says the Department of Homeland Security confirmed the policy shift. Maine Senator Susan Collins also posted on X today that she had called for change. The most recent death happened Monday in Biddeford, Maine, where ICE agents tried to pull over the car of a 26-year-old Colombian man. Members of a congressional committee questioned Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh today. He told lawmakers a central bank will make high inflation a thing of the past, but he did not immediately specify how. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose. We have an update to one of our top stories throughout the morning. Harris County Precinct 1 Constable Alan Rosen has just announced an arrest in connection to an alleged sexual assault and subsequent drowning attempt along White Oak Bayou near Bent Branch Drive. Around 6:30 yesterday evening, a woman exercising was allegedly attacked by an unknown man, but she was able to get away after putting up a fight. That 19-year-old is now in custody. Well, Houston ISD says it will continue to move forward with its controversial special education restructuring plan, centralizing services, despite the Texas Education Agency finding the district violated a federal civil rights law. News 88.7 Bianca Seward reports.
In May, the district announced it would consolidate its special education services to select high schools. The changes affected thousands of students. A core concern by parents was the centralization required transferring students to new campuses. Several families filed complaints with the Texas Education Agency. After an investigation, the state agency is now requiring HISD to make adjustments to its program by October 9th, or it could pursue additional interventions or sanctions against the district. One of the adjustments requires the district hold meetings with affected families about the changes to their students' education plan. In a statement, HISD says a campus transfer itself does not require a meeting if the student's education plan and services remain the same. I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
And Texas oil companies slightly increased production during the second quarter of this year. That's according to a recent survey from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Kunal Patel is a senior business economist with the Federal Reserve.
They are increasing activity because prices are higher, but there is this uncertainty. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is a supply side shock, not a demand side shock.
And oil firms say they will increase production next year, only if prices rise, but they were divided on whether that would happen. And we'd have rain forecasted in the area throughout much of the day. Authorities do want to remind drivers of possible high water points and just take caution where necessary. It's 75 degrees right now on the UH campus. I'm Shelby Rose, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from Strawberry.me, whose career coaches offer professional support to help people get unstuck, gain clarity, and move forward, whether advancing in a current role or choosing a new direction altogether. More at strawberry.me/public.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous.
Well, if you watch the show on YouTube, I often say if you don't watch the show on YouTube, you miss half of the program. Well, what you would have seen right now is everyone was in here chatting, having Roseann Rogers here, a legend in broadcasting. Folks wanted to come up and say hello, and the Gilbert and Sullivan folks were just so gracious, and everyone was in here talking. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, wait, that's the theme music. We're back on the air.
We have a show to do, folks.
Shoot
Hello,
everyone out of
Houston.
here. Roseann Rogers sitting in with me today in the guest host chair, having fun.
Having a great time. It's good to see you again. I mean, we've been friends for so many years and worked together on and off the air for different things. We do professionally, of course, but then think how many things we emceed together over the years.
I was at your wedding.
You were at my wedding.
And I always feel like that was just yesterday. How many years ago was that?
23.
23.
Who's counting, Ernie? Now everyone knows how old we are.
No, they don't, because you were a child bride.
Thank you so much,
and I was your younger
that.
friend.
Yes, you were. You were just looking so good.
We'll just pretend with that. We'll go with that one.
Yes, we will.
And I was going to say, it must be fun to be back on the air. But actually, you're still doing stuff with national PBS. You do a lot for us.
I do. I do a lot of things with Pledgeship. Obviously, we have to support and our sustainers sustain, Houston Public Media, but also Nashville PBS and the shows. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have PBS Passport. And, I just absolutely love all the shows. I'm a super fan volunteer and I believe in it. So I have a passion for it. So anytime they need someone to do live television in between, I just did something with Josh Groban. He was in town for a show and he's so generous.
Well, you're in Nashville. You can get a lot of great folks are coming through.
We do, but he was willing to, if you made a donation, you were able to get tickets or see backstage and do a sound check. And he was just so generous with the tickets. The fact that I kept telling everybody, you think you're getting tickets, but all this money's going right to public television. So it's really good. So I do a lot with them as well. So it's good.
We always want you folks to know too, at any time that you feel the urge to become a member, to donate, to support what you love here, just go to HoustonPublicMedia.org and you'll find that donate button and join us. That's what fuels what we do here every day.
It does. Your dollar does double duty, folks. And so not only for local programming, for national programming, and it's just all good. We need good quality television and radio.
And hopefully we'll give you some good quality radio today as we share our stories. Outside, it is a little icky. It's not quite the weather we would have wanted to welcome you to Houston with today.
I flew into rain today.
You flew into rain, but you know who can tell us all about it? Eric Berger is with us from Space City Weather. Eric, it's not that happy sunny day I wanted.
It's not a happy sunny day, but we got plenty of that weather coming up pretty soon.
Really? How soon? How soon is this leaving us?
Well, I think today was kind of the most widespread showers that we're going to see is certainly up north in the Woodlands area and points north from there. We saw 3 to 5, 6, even 6 inches of rain, so pretty heavy stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to still see some scattered showers and thunderstorms, probably not like today, and then by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be sunny and hot.
I kept waking up over the night with the rumbles and grumbles out there in the air, but then I woke up to something that was really a welcome gift, which was lower temperatures. How long do we get to hold on to those?
Well, it's middle of July, so not long. It has been quite nice temperature-wise, and today some areas may peak out at about 80 degrees. Unfortunately, by Saturday, Sunday, we're going to be back into the mid to upper 90s and stay there for a while.
Yeah, but you said by Saturday or Sunday, and this is only Tuesday. That sounds like you're giving us a little something here.
Let's hope.
Well, it's going to kind of be stepwise. So like tomorrow, probably low to mid 80s. Thursday, mid to upper 80s. Friday, lower 90s, and then full-on summer.
Okay, tonight I'm going to the theater. I love to walk to the theater. This evening, am I going to get caught in rain?
I think that, the atmosphere is pretty worked over after all the storms that we've had today. So my sense is that there may be a few scattered, isolated showers this evening, but I'd bet on a dry walk, yeah.
You can pretend you're in London, because in London it's always like that, right? You're walking, there's a little mist in the air, so you can feel like, hey, H-Town is converted.
Speaking of it being H-Town, we always have to wonder, flooding, street flooding. What have we seen today? Are people still to be aware of any areas where it's pooling?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to be aware. Certainly low-lying streets. I'm looking right out at my road. There's water on both sides of the road, and certainly up north in Montgomery County, places like that, there's going to be some street flooding. But by and large, this is pretty much the worst of it. I think the conditions should improve from here.
We're in hurricane season. This seems pretty mild, so I'm not too worried. How's the rest of the season looking at this point from where you sit?
Well, it's been a super quiet start to the year. And things do look rather quiet for the next couple of weeks. There's a slight chance that something could form in the northern Gulf later or next week, but I'm not really concerned about that at all. It's just the wind shear out there is really high, and we're seeing El Nino build. So you feel pretty good, but no one is taking anything for granted, I think, especially with the busy months of August and September ahead of us. We really have about 2.5 months to go before I'd feel comfortable taking a deep sigh of relief. But honestly, we could not be sitting in a better position, heading into the rest of hurricane season than we are right now.
Okay.
That's good to know. But a lot of rain, though. We've had a lot of rain in Tennessee as well. And we've had flooding issues. There's been a lot it's really been extreme this year as far as how much rain we've actually had over the summer. Have you seen that across Texas as well?
Well, certainly in central and west Texas, there's very heavy rainfall this week, today, tomorrow, lots of flooding out there. But for Houston, I hate to say it if you're looking for sunny weather, but this is actually pretty beneficial because I think after tomorrow, we're going to see a stretch of a week or 10 days of sunny and hot weather. And that, at this time of year when the sun is at about the highest point of the year it gets, soils drop pretty quickly. So this is actually pretty beneficial for us. as we get toward the end of July and into August.
So what he's saying is we should embrace this moment
Right,
this
take
week.
it while you have
Did
it,
you
but-
hear that? He's like, come on, everybody.
Okay,
I mean, there are
complain.
silver linings, right?
Yeah, there are. There are in
Cooler
lower temperatures.
and
Yes.
green
All right.
lawns and stuff like that. Yeah, you got to take the good with the
Absolutely.
bad.
I'm about to rip away the silver lining. So, water, heat coming up, mosquitoes. Is this going to be bad for us?
Oh, yeah. We've already had a couple of rounds of mosquitoes that were really bad after some of the heavier rains we've experienced. And I think, 2-3 days, we're going to see that again. I have to say, the mosquitoes this year have been larger than I've ever seen before. And I'm not an entomologist. I don't really know what's going on, but it's kind of scary. You walk outside and pop a mosquito that's the size
Is that a
of a quarter.
mosquito or is that something else, right?
Oh my God, I killed a bird. No, it was
Sucking
just a
your blood.
mosquito.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, before I let you go, take us into then a standard forecast for the next 24 hours. Take it away.
Yeah, so we're seeing rainfall subsiding over the area. I think we'll see some scattered showers later this afternoon and pretty quiet night. We could see another round of storms early on Wednesday into Wednesday morning, but it's probably not going to be as intense as it was today for most locations.
Eric, thank you as always for helping walk us through the weather and what's going on in the world around us.
My pleasure.
Eric Berger is with Space City Weather and always willing to help us understand what's going on out there.
He's right. But I love the fact he's trying to let us be optimistic that we should embrace this weather right now. Let's not be sad about it because it's going to get really hot and muggy again very, very soon.
Ugh, and I hate the hot mug. But I will tell you, I was so happy this morning when my little Alexa told me the temperature out there, and I was like, yeah.
And I almost felt like, where am I? Am I back in Nashville or am I in Houston? Where am I?
You are in Houston,
I'm
and you're
in
going to know it
Houston.
because you're on Hello Houston. We got a great show for you for this hour. We're going to be talking about a really interesting study about brain cancer and what can be done to help stem the growth of it. We're going to learn about that. Plus, we're also going to see what's going on at Emancipation Park, some new improvements there that are going to mean a lot currently and in the future in that area. But as always, it's top of the hour, so it's time for some headlines. Roseann?
A group of Democratic state lawmakers from Texas on Monday asked the Texas Rangers to open an independent investigation into the July 7th shooting death of an immigrant in Houston by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. 57 members of the Texas House Democratic Caucus sent a letter to the Texas Department of Public Safety Director Freeman Martin regarding the death of Lorenzo Salardo Arroja, a 52-year-old father from Mexico who had been in the United States for decades before being killed by ICE agents last week. The family, eyewitnesses, and community leaders have raised serious questions that deserve an independent review supported by all available evidence, the lawmakers wrote. We respectfully request that the Texas Rangers immediately open an independent investigation into this shooting, or that is possible, publicly explain why the Texas Rangers will not exercise jurisdiction in this matter. Lawmakers also asked DPS to release all relevant evidence, including body camera footage, surveillance video, dispatched records, witness statements, forensic evidence, and investigative reports. So far, no video from the incident has emerged. What are your thoughts on the possibility of Texas Rangers investigation? What do you think? Call or text us at 713-440-8870.
We were talking about this in the first segment about these other investigations and funding that with taxpayer money for Harris County. I feel more comfortable with the Harris County investigation because it's in our community. I feel the Texas Rangers, and I don't know if I'm in, please share your thoughts with me. Let me know if you think I'm off base on this. I feel in today's environment that the Texas Rangers might feel a political direction in their investigation. Now, Texas Rangers will probably call me and tell me absolutely not. That's not what would happen. And I should probably take solace in the fact that Democratic lawmakers are asking for that, so those fears should be assuaged. But what are your thoughts? I just feel like I don't know that your outcome is going to be, I think it's going to fall more in line with the federal government's talking points, which we're already questioning.
Agreed.
And so therefore, do they feel a commitment through political pressures to align with a particular political party in the way they approach it? And part of that is even the way they're investigating it on the federal level. From at least last week, it was the investigation of an assault on a federal agent, not on the shooting of a civilian.
Right. Is it we even use that word jurisdiction, because however what the Texas Rangers do and what they're supposed to be doing, does that really fall under their duty?
Mm-hmm. There's that too. What do you think? 713-440-8870. What are your thoughts? Would you feel comfortable with the Texas Rangers investigating this? Do you feel that we should be asking them to check into it? Or do you think there are enough investigations already going on around this case? I would say in some way, I would think, you know what, everyone should be able to investigate. Everyone should be looking into this. All I know is I want to find truth. And what bothers me is in today's day and age, we seem to feel, what was that old, those are your facts, these are mine. I remember when facts were just facts.
But remember, facts are yours. You can't
alternative
make up the facts. Right. Your opinions are your own, your facts are not, because you can say, where are you getting this information? And is it vetted? Is it, backed up? Where are they getting that? And it also feels to me there's so many people now, right? We need to narrow this down to make sure we can figure out what's going on.
I want to share a note with everyone else, too. A public viewing of Lorenzo Salgado Arrojo's body will be held on Thursday in Houston. Salgado was the one shot and killed last week by ICE agents. In a social media post, his son thanked the community for its support and said the family wanted to give the public an opportunity to pay their respects. The viewing is scheduled from 5 to 9 p.m. at Forest Park Lawndale's Great Chapel. So if you'd like to show your respect to the family and remembrance of Lorenzo, that's going to happen Thursday at Forest Park Lawndale's Great Chapel. Just an added note there. Other things going on in the news. Moana failed at the box office. Tell me about this, Roseann.
Well, it didn't really fail. It was still number one at the box office, but it didn't do as well as expected. I mean, it did $43 million, and there are over 3,000 theaters nationwide, close to 4,000. And so there wasn't a whole lot happening in the weekend.
It cost $250 million to make and only made $43 million.
And
I stand by my
statement. You have to triple. In any movie, you have to triple what you bring at the box office in order to make a profit. And it didn't. There was nothing at the box office. Could it be Summer? Number one, that why it didn't do as well as it did. Why did they bring it back? I mean, Rotten Tomatoes only gave it 37% rating. I mean, I kind of go with Rotten Tomatoes when they say something about a movie, but it was number one. I mean, the movie, features Dwayne Johnson as Maui. I mean, it's about heritage, but what do you think about these live action remakes coming back like this? I mean, the original animated film came out in 2016, only 10 years ago. Was it too soon to bring something back like this?
I just think, we're curious what you think, 713-440-8870. I just feel like, and you're going to correct me, I'm sure, but I feel like all of these live action remakes kind of stumble.
Sometimes, but you're right. I'm going to correct you.
Okay.
Because I had to give him a moment there, folks. I had to give him a moment because Jungle Book back in 2016 did very well.
Right.
Jungle Book did well. Pete's Dragon did well in 2016 as well. Cinderella in 2015 and Cruella in 2021 were all live actions that did fairly well at the box office. I mean, the best one is Jungle Book, of course.
Right.
But I think also, too, Dwayne Johnson. Do we feel like that's what we'd want Dwayne Johnson to be doing? Is something like this, right? I think I saw all the interviews. He did a great job. I think it was about heritage. The young woman, Catherine Grace, she's beautiful. She's lovely. But again, a time of year, people are on vacation. Are they really going to the movie theaters?
Summer movies, yes. They're the big blockbuster time of the year. It's when the theaters are supposed to make their money, and this isn't making it for them. I'm sorry, but give me a great Disney cartoon. I don't want to see it turned
But there's a huge movie opening up this Friday.
Which
huge.
one?
It's called The Odyssey.
Never heard of it.
Oh my goodness.
Is it a new book? Is it based on a new story? I am
Damon's
looking for
in it.
I
So,
want to see
you're
The
right.
Odyssey.
I was in your comment about the movie time. It's summertime. It's hot outside. Yes, you go to the movie. Remember 4th of July? Remember Independence Day? How we all had to go see Independence Day?
Oh, yeah.
That was huge back then.
I'm old enough to remember when theaters advertised what they were showing, not by saying what the movie was. They said air conditioned inside, and people would go to the movie.
And guess what? It still works for me, Ernie.
Still works.
Still works.
We were talking a moment ago about the Texas Rangers and their investigation into the ICE shooting. We have a call on the line. It's Michael from Westgate. Michael, what's on your mind today?
Ernie, I don't know if you're aware, but in Minnesota, the Hennepin District Attorney, that's the county where Minneapolis is located.
Yeah.
Asked for and got all the information it wanted from the federal government, and this is going to a grand jury to see what happens to the officers that murdered those civilians.
Well,
I'm bringing this point up because the other day you had all these people saying, "Oh, well, Texas doesn't have jurisdiction," and all that. That's simply not true. Texas is a sovereign state. We have our own government. We have our own district attorneys, and they have plenary jurisdiction to investigate any crime, any murder, certainly, that happens within Harris County. Now, what has to happen is these people have to show some courage and do what they've got to do instead of trying to hide behind wealth. Simply false statements.
Michael, I appreciate those comments. I was not aware that they got all of that information handed over to them in Hennepin County. Good to know that. That gives me faith in what could happen here, and hopefully we will get answers. And I also agree that if the investigation, and you can trust the forensic reporting on information, then I think you share it and save us some money along the way. But let's make sure we get to truth in this. Michael, thank you for calling. Let me quickly grab Dutch from Waller. Dutch, what's on your mind?
Well, you were talking about the animation being turned into live actions.
Yes. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite animated movies is How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes, I liked it too.
I love the whole thing. And I went and saw the live action version.
Yeah.
And I thought it was equally good.
Really?
NBC, I think, did a comparison scene by scene for about an hour of, to pick out different scenes. I thought they did a really, really good job on the live action. And I'm waiting for the part 2.
I'm glad he brought that up because now that I think about it, that was a really good movie. So thank you for reaching out to us and letting us know about that because I agree with you on that one.
You'll have a great day.
You
Dutch,
too.
Thank you very much for calling. Okay, we are going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to find out what's going on at Rice University and their Pew Biomedical Scholarship Award winner is going to be telling us about a 4-year project exploring how one of the most common and aggressive forms of brain cancer grows and spreads into healthy tissue. Knowledge is power, they say. Let's learn. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
And Beverly McPhail proudly support Houston Public Media, where facts matter and every voice counts. Because honest journalism and informed debate are vital to a vibrant democracy.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Alley Theater, presenting The Girl on the Train, a psychological thriller about memory, perception, and the search for the truth. Opens July 24th. Tickets at alleytheater.org.
Support comes from Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion Houston Symphony presenting Game On, a symphony of sport by the Woodland Symphony, featuring stadium themes and Olympic fanfares. Open to the public July 14th. woodlandcenter.org/performing-arts.
Join us for Hello Houston, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., taking a deep dive into the stories that matter to Houstonians, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained, with the generous support from our founding sponsor, Kathy Sanders.
Support comes from CenterPoint Energy, who have installed 150 weather monitoring stations to improve storm response and restore power more quickly, helping to build a more resilient coastal grid for the hurricane season.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Roseann Rogers.
I am so excited about this next segment because Christina Tringides is an assistant professor of material science and nanoengineering at Rice University. She is one of only 21 scientists to win the prestigious Pew Biomedical Scholar Award. She is the first faculty member from Rice to win this distinction, which provides $300,000 over 4 years for advanced in biomedicine. The awards are granted to researchers who are the first and the few years at assistant professor level, which is stunning to me. This is unbelievable. In Tringides' case, the funding will support her innovative new method of modeling blasphemia. Can I say that right, Christina? You're going to have to give me cues on these words here. A common and extremely aggressive form of brain cancer. Christina, thank you so much for joining us. And Ernie and I were talking about this. We're so intrigued. I want to go back just for a moment. Receiving this, tell us about this award and what this means and what you're going to be able to do with this.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. This award is really important to us because, as you mentioned, glioblastoma is the most common type of brain cancer, primary brain cancer. And a primary cancer means that it begins at the origin of that tissue. So it's not that it started in the lung and then went to the brain, but this cancer really began in the brain. The glioblastoma is a really devastating type of cancer with really poor patient outcomes. And one reason for this is that the cancer is so different between each patient, but actually within a single tumor, it's also very different. So it makes it very challenging to treat. Receiving the award for us, so Pew Biomedical Scholars Program is part of the Pew Charitable Trust, and they're an organization that supports assistant professors, as you mentioned, but also young researchers. And for them, what they prioritize is really funding high-risk, high-reward research, which is quite challenging to get support for or funding for. And often they give money for interdisciplinary projects. So this means that the work sits at the intersection of many different fields. As you mentioned, I'm a professor of material science, so the award and the project really sits at that state, but we also bring in neuroscience and we bring in cancer. And for me personally, I'm really excited about that because it's these at the intersection of these really different research worlds that we can start to come up with some innovative solutions to difficult questions.
Well, congratulations to you. You're only one of 21 scientists around, the country to be able to win this prestigious award, and it will be able for you to continue your research.
Let me ask, and this may be an unfair question for you to answer, but what do you think it is about this work and this research that they thought was worthy of this award? Because if anyone knows, a lot of people are vying for it. You folks received it.
Yeah, it's a great question. We have a few interesting angles that we take. So I guess maybe before going into the specifics, we could take a step back and go back to glioblastoma. So glioblastoma begins in the brain. As we know, we have the skull, which is great for us if we fall, especially when you're a little kid. You don't have to worry about having some big damage because you have this protective layer helping you out. Underneath the skull, we also have other protective layers that sit between skull and the brain. So it's quite challenging to access. So that's the first challenge. But then the second challenge is that once you do have access to the brain tissue, so you remove the skull, you open these layers, this cancer grows with a lot of branches. So a lot of other cancers will grow as this large spherical or contained mass, but the glioblastoma will form all of these innervative branches, which makes it very difficult to remove all of the tumor cells. And there's a second challenge in that the brain, as we know, has a lot of important roles. So me speaking, me moving my hands, all of that is a different part of the brain that's responsible for a different action. And these cancers can really grow and spread to different regions of the brain. So it's very important for neurosurgeons to preserve that function, which means if there's a tumor next to the part of the brain responsible for speaking, they may leave those cells intact or in the brain so that the patient doesn't lose the ability to speak. So very challenging anatomically, very challenging and skill-intensive surgeries. And then another piece of the cancer that kind of emerged in the last decade is that the tumor cells form electrical connections to neurons. So what this means is as we develop normally, our neurons, which are the type of cell in the brain that communicate electrical information, so it helps me move my hand, it helps me move my foot, they form connections to one another, which we call circuits, and it's through the formation of these healthy circuits that help us speak, move, remember things. Glioblastoma comes much later, so it's not part of these healthy cells that are forming the circuits, but this cancer can still form these types of connections with the neurons that are already there. So what that means is that we have a rewiring or change of brain function over time. And in doing so, actually, there's been found that the cancer is doing this so that it continues to grow and invade and spread and form these branches, which makes it even more difficult to remove.
We're going to have to take
all of this.
In just a few moments, we're going to have to take a quick break. So if I cut you off when you're talking, don't worry, we'll come back to you in a minute. But I want to go back then to all of this and say, but what in your research made them say, because now that we have the lay of the land,
yes, exactly.
they're worthy of this money and this attention?
Yes. Okay, so we have the context now. In trying to understand brain cancers, a lot of engineers and neurosurgeons will use a type of device, which is actually made exactly the same way that you would make a phone or a laptop, the same materials, the same techniques. We just make them very, very thin. And these devices can help us understand how these electrical connections are changing over time, but they have some limitations. So they usually use metals to record electrical signals. A metal deforms plastically. So what this means is I have a little piece of paper, which I think you can see.
Yeah.
If I crumble it.
And we are back with you. I apologize for that, Christina. Right when you picked up your sheet of paper to tell us about what happens, on the radio portion of us, we went to an emergency alert and folks were not able to hear you.
Yes.
I do believe on YouTube they were able, they say they lost audio also on YouTube. So
but she
I'm
looked
sorry.
great.
Okay.
She was enthusiastic
I have
about
another
it.
paper.
Yeah,
I
she's
have
got
another
another
paper.
piece
We
of
take this all
paper.
again.
For those people just joining us, Christina Tringides is an assistant professor of materials science and nanoengineering at Rice University, as the winner of the prestigious Pew Biomedical Scholar Award. We would like to hear if you would like to hear from you on this conversation. If you have questions for Christina, she is amazing. She's so brilliant. 713-440-8870. Okay, so Christina, where we left off before we went to the buzzer, you had the paper up, and then you got to take us back.
We had asked you about what it is about your
Yes.
research that excited them so that awarded you the prize. And you had that piece of paper, and go.
Yes. All right. So we had talked about how a neurosurgeon will use implants. So these implantable electrode arrays help us understand what part of the brain is doing what. They're made out of materials that are made to use the laptop or the phone, just made very thin, and they deform plastically. So now that's where the paper comes in. A piece of paper is smooth. If I crumble it and I unfold it, it has these permanent deformations or folds, and this is what we call plastic deformation. And that's exactly what happens to the metals that are inside these devices, which makes it limited where we can actually place them. So instead of trying to create a device that has these types of limitations, we instead bring the disease to the lab. So we create these models of the disease in our lab where we can understand how the cancer is spreading and how each part of the cancer could be affecting cancer spread, or how the neurons are affected as well.
That's
In
incredible.
particular, we work with hydrogels. So an example of a hydrogel is a contact lens, or Jello, if you've eaten Jello. And in our tissue, we have these hydrogels that cells sit on and interact with. So we start by creating hydrogels that give the neurons, and we work with human-derived neurons, the right environment. We add the cancer. What's unique to our research is that we have these little mazes where we separate out where the cancer is and where the neurons are. So we really restrict where these cells are interacting. Because it's a lab setting, we can watch exactly how the cancer is moving using a microscope. We place our little maze on top of an electrode array, which means we're watching in real time how the electrical activity is changing. So we're breaking apart all these complex pieces of the cancer in a lab setting, using patient-derived cells, using human-derived neurons to understand more mechanisms of what this cancer is doing.
If I understand correctly, and that's all very fascinating, if I understand correctly, and this is going to be a very simplistic mind looking at this, is that if we're understanding that this cancer can seek out the healthy brain cells, once you understand what is drawing it to the healthy brain cells, by stopping that behavior, would that stop the spread of the growth of the cancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's definitely one avenue that we're taking. The other approach is that typically patients are treated with a lot of drugs, but maybe it's not one drug for every patient. There could be specific drugs that benefit each patient's specific cancer. And since we are working with patient-specific cancer cells, we can use our model system to really see what drug works for patient A, what drugs work for patient B, to reverse or stop the process.
Wow, it's fascinating. Do we do ourselves a disservice by calling all of these cancer this huge umbrella term that we all have a reaction to? Should we be a little more defined in how we look at these different things?
It's an interesting question. I think we know a lot about cancer, a lot more than we did a decade ago, but we're still learning to kind of further sub-classify cancer. So I think cancer now is just this general mass of cells that are growing uncontrollably. All cancers have those elements, but every cancer type has more specific nuances. Right. For glioblastoma, actually, there are 4 subtypes of glioblastoma, depending on the cells that make them up. So the deeper you dive, the more terminology and distinctions you have.
Well, for doctors to be able to personalize more treatment for patients. And that's what your research is going to help doctors do for their patients who have cancer. Because you're
correct.
Right, it's an overall umbrella that we're talking about, but this will personalize the treatments.
Yes, and that's actually a really important point. We work really closely with neurosurgeons at the Texas Medical Center. My lab is really just across the street from the Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world. So we're really, really fortunate to work with these brilliant neurosurgeons. This is how we have access to the cells. We get a lot of feedback from them on our model system. So it's this really synergistic, perfect environment to do this type of work.
This may seem like a very odd question. Hopefully you can make me sound smarter when I ask it. But I'm curious, when there is the growth of this cancer in the brain, and so now we're shifting how things connect within the brain because of this blockage of these cells, do you see other parts of the brain stimulate and behave better because of this shifting in other tissues?
It's a fabulous question. So it's really hard in the body to ask that question because we don't have these types of implants that can record from the entire body. This is one thing that we're exploring in our research. So we can have a compartment which is healthy brain, a compartment which is healthy brain close to the tumor, and then tumor cells. And we can see how each piece is changing as the tumor continues to grow and integrate with the region closest to it versus regions that are more far away.
Is there any school of thought in which you can live with the growth of these cells as opposed to having to stop the cell growth or remove the cell growth?
In the case of glioblastoma, since the cancer is really changing these circuits which are so responsible for movement and for speech, it's very challenging to actually live with these changes. There are other cancer types in other organs of the body where patients can remove or resect or stop the growth, and then maybe the tumor doesn't need to be removed. But typically for malignant tumors, you want them out as quickly as possible because they're really uncontrolled and we don't know how they'll continue to progress.
Yeah. As we look to the future, and now that you have this nice chunk of change in your hand, $300,000, and I know in the real world of this kind of research, that's not a whole lot, but it is an impressive number to still say. Where do you see yourselves going in the next few years on this research?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one part of Pew giving support for high risk, high reward research means that we can test all these ideas. And then the most important thing for us is to generate preliminary data. So how well does this work? What are the initial results? What are these potential mechanisms that we sense? And once we have this preliminary data, which helps us de-risk or validate that our approach is going to work, then we can go to other foundations, we can apply for federal funding, but we have a lot of confidence in ourselves and we can show the community as well that they should have a lot of confidence in what we're doing.
Well, we have a lot of confidence in you. Thank you so much. This is fascinating stuff.
You're amazing. You have so much energy and exciting time for what you're doing. And congratulations. And we so appreciate you joining us on Hello Houston today. Coming up, the Emancipation Park Conservancy. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues right after this.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, the series Once Upon a Time in Space tells the human stories behind our quest to explore space, drawing on intimate, archived, and powerful first-hand interviews. Tonight at 8 on TV8. Support comes from Central Market, celebrating Bastille Day with hundreds of French wines and cheeses, charcuterie, fresh-baked French butter croissants, madeleines, and more. More at centralmarket.com.
This is Briefcase, brought to you in partnership with the University of Houston Law Center. Here's Dean Leonard Baines.
A new federal law will change how students pay for graduate and professional schools. It's the result of legislation called the One Big Beautiful Bill. For new borrowers, federal loans will be capped generally at $100,000 for graduate programs like master's and PhDs, and $200,000 for professional degrees like law and medicine. There's also an overall lifetime cap of $257,000 in federal student loans, including what a student already borrowed as an undergraduate. In the future, students who have the financial capacity should plan ahead to finance their education. I'm Dean Leonard Baines.
From the University of Houston Law Center, this has been Briefcase. For more episodes, visit houstonpublicmedia.org/briefcase.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Roseann Rogers.
Welcome back, everyone. The Emancipation Park Conservancy, or EPC, is a local nonprofit that's dedicated to the enhancement of Emancipation Park, located in Houston's 3rd Ward. Founded back in 2014, the Conservancy seeks to transform the park into one of the country's leading landmark parks, while also preserving its historical roots. Last month, the Conservancy completed construction on a new state-of-the-art performance stage, marking a major milestone in the efforts to enhance this historical, significant park. To tell us more about the Conservancy's mission, the park's history, and its new performance stage, we're joined by Corey Wilson, who is the president and CEO of Emancipation Park Conservancy. Corey, welcome to Hello Houston. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, Roseann.
This is so exciting. Well, let's first talk about this new performance stage. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, we're excited. Just a couple of weeks ago on Juneteenth, we were able to feature the stage and show it off to the community. We've been hosting Juneteenth at Emancipation Park since 1872. And over the last few years, and even last year, we had to reschedule because of weather events, and we were always renting a stage, and you had to bring in heavy equipment and those sort of things like that. And so because we hope to have Juneteenth at the park for the next 150 years, we thought it just made economical sense to have a permanent stage in place. And so with the help of the Kinder Foundation and other supporting foundations, we were able to raise some funds and build that permanent outdoor performance stage. Arts and culture is a big part of what we do at Emancipation Park, in addition to education and health and wellness. And those are some of our programming pillars, but this really puts us on the map from an arts and culture perspective. So not only do we look forward to having an exciting Juneteenth every year, but we'll have more opportunities to feature very exciting cultural programs there.
I will say I drive by the park every day on my way home, and the growth and development of that area is amazing. And I'm guessing it coincides with the foundation's birth in 2014 is when there was really the kick into redeveloping the area, correct?
Yes, and the park has always had good community support, starting with the Friends of Emancipation Park Conservancy. But 2014 is when the Emancipation Park Conservancy was established. It was actually established on June 19th of 2014. Not a coincidence there. But it was because of the community support and wanting to see more at role at the Conservancy is to preserve the history, but also to promote the park and get as many people as possible to learn about the history of the park, but also to come out and take advantage of the benefits of the park, not just the programming we have, but just being outdoors and active is a great benefit. It's hard to find a great community anywhere in the world, really, that doesn't have a great park. And so we know that's the foundation of the community. We want to be there to support the community, support the city of Houston, which actually owns the park. But yeah, we're excited that we were established, and we're looking forward to continuing to preserve that legacy as well as introduce more people to the park.
We keep pointing to 2014 as the birth of the Conservancy, but actually, as you mentioned earlier, the park started in 1872 and has been a constant all this time through the city and the changes it's seen in our own communities.
Yes, and that's really what separates Emancipation Park from any other park here in Houston, or quite frankly, any other park in the United States. When you think about the fact that the land that we currently operate on was actually purchased. It wasn't a bequeath or any type of legacy donation, but it was actually purchased by 4 formerly enslaved individuals who just 7 years prior, 1865, learned about their freedom, or their freedom was enforced here in Texas. And so to think 7 years later to not only purchase the park, but to establish a church first, which probably helped raise the $800 needed to purchase the land. And while it was used to celebrate Juneteenth, I imagine, as it is now, the park is a foundation of the community. So it's used for a lot of whatever the community needs, and so we have everything there from swimming pool to basketball courts to the different programs like Juneteenth. We have toy giveaways in December. And so we really want to, as I mentioned, preserve that history, but also be flexible enough to adopt the community needs. At the end of the day, the park is owned by the residents of the city of Houston, supported by the residents right there in the 3rd Ward, and we want to make sure that we are there to meet the needs of the community, and have been doing that since 1872.
Well, and with the new performance stage, we'll continue that. We are speaking with Corey Wilson, who's the president and CEO of the Emancipation Park Conservancy. If you'd like to join our conversation with Corey, just text or call 713-440-8870. Corey, you mentioned earlier about this new state-of-the-art stage. What are some of the programs you want to see or have throughout the year that this will really even draw even more crowds to the park?
Yeah, Juneteenth was possible on the stage. We had gospel artists, we had R&B artists, we had hip-hop artists, but we want to be able to continue having those type of performances, but also bring some experience to the community. May not have an opportunity to enjoy anything from the Houston Opera performing there.
That's exciting.
And all sorts of different ideas. And so we're open. One thing about Emancipation is that we are not experts in anything. So we have the asset. That's our value that we bring to the table. And so we are always looking for partners who want to do something in the 3rd Ward, and to be able to share those experiences with the kids and residents and seniors that are in that area. And so our doors are open, and we're looking to hear about great partnering opportunities, but certainly looking forward to, and the opera has performed at Emancipation Park before. We want to bring that back again, but we can have the orchestra out there as well, and many other ideas that I'm probably not even thinking about now.
That's so exciting. The future holds. It's going to be great.
We love all that you're doing with the park and look forward to the future there and the new programming that this facility will afford. It's more than just a stage, green rooms, climate-controlled storage, dedicated audiovisual facilities, so much happening there. Thank you so much, Corey, for joining us today.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks for having me.
Corey Wilson is the president and CEO of Emancipation Park Conservancy, and they are doing wonderful things. I do drive by it all the time.
Right.
I've seen the growth of the buildings and the facilities over the years, and I know it's funny to talk about, wow, a park is so cool because they put buildings in, but it's the infrastructure they've put in place so that there's more opportunity in the park, and it's just a great gem that the city has.
The landscape has changed over the years, which is so incredible, and that's what I remember the most when Corey was talking about historical roots and talking about all the things they've done and being a landmark. It truly is, and to see it growth like that, and then to be adding something as a new performance stage. And I love the fact that he said about partnerships, that he's going to doing more partnerships and having people out there, because we do need, Houston is a thriving city, and there's so many performing arts, and there's not a whole lot of venues sometimes, because sometimes performances are smaller and they can't go to the Wortham Center, right? Because but now there's another space and place for people to enjoy the performing arts.
And I know I'm a weirdo weird one in this town. I love outdoor theater.
I do
know
too.
it gets hot here in the summer. I know people complain about that, but boy,
I don't
oh
care.
boy, I like going to an outdoor
do
event
too.
and more venues, and especially state of the art. There's so much more they can do with it. And if you're at Miller
Agreed.
Outdoor, and when the curtain or the sight
always
goes
there.
up
I was
and the
always there.
cold air rolls onto you from their
It was
AC,
great.
it's like, oh, I love that. So hopefully they'll find some relief.
Yes,
Speaking
exciting.
of finding some relief, we know that the final four teams still in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Have you been watching?
I have been. Of course, I watched England. I watched Belgium. I watched some winners, and I watched some losers too.
Well, you can watch France, Spain, England, and Argentina. One of those four will become the World Cup champs.
Be watching today.
It's going to be
Going to meet a
happening soon.
group. They're like, okay, Roseann, you're in town. Let's watch some soccer.
Well,
Football.
you're in town, but I hear you're going to be in town again tomorrow,
Yes,
sitting right
you
here
are
with me.
stuck with me, Ernie, no matter
I
what.
don't consider
I'm here.
it stuck.
Thank
I
you.
consider it a joy.
It is.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you for joining us, for watching, for listening, for engaging. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations and more Roseann Rogers.
Thank you.
We'll also discuss Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton cracking down on illegal voting. We'll find out about that. This is Hello Houston. See you tomorrow right here on News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
Still a chance of some heavy rain this afternoon, the high getting up to 82. Currently 74. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, maker of MATLAB and Simulink for engineered systems. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science.
From NPR and WBUR Boston, I'm Peter O'Dowd.
I'm Tiziana Deering. It's Here and Now. Coming up, the latest on the outrage in Maine after an ICE agent fatally shot a motorist who they say was not the target of their warrant.
Also, crypto in your 401k. The Trump administration wants to encourage businesses to take risk with your retirement.
There's a very strong consumer protection law around retirement accounts. The administration's solution is to water down that protection.
And Sigrid Nunez has written several acclaimed novels, even winning a National Book Award. Now she's out with her first collection of short stories.
Most of the characters are wanting something that they've been missing. They haven't received enough love or attention.
Coming up Here and Now.
First, the news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh.